We all know that jealousy in a worship ministry is toxic, but how do you create a culture that keeps jealousy away? In this video, we're going to talk about how to eliminate jealousy from your team and why so many fail to do it. So let me play devil's advocate for a minute. In the same way that there are positives to lemons, jealousy really does have a couple of bright sides. The first is that at least it means that your volunteers really care, that they want to invest in your ministry. Otherwise, they wouldn't be jealous. Number two is that every healthy organism or organization has a healthy amount of competition. It actually pushes us to get better. So in a healthy environment, there should be at least some amount of competition that may look like jealousy if it's healthy. And the last is that anytime that you're in community, even when you're going through hard things, when we tackle them together, when we exhibit good leadership, it actually is an opportunity to bring us closer. Like I said in the last video, oftentimes the root of jealousy is actually an issue that's going on in a person's life. And this, when jealousy rears its ugly head, it's actually an opportunity for you to come alongside of the people in your ministry and walk beside them through something. So if we can view jealousy as not all bad, then why is it that so many leaders struggle to deal with it? I think one of the biggest reasons why is because we're all so busy. I think ministry is infamous for being over busy. We overfill our schedules, and then we miss out on really investing our time into the things that matter most. Number two is it's just a lot of work, coming alongside of people in the situation is difficult, but even harder is the maintenance and the work beforehand, before something is an issue, to create a culture that instills that unity into a healthy team. And I think lastly, one of the main reasons why leaders don't do it is because they don't know how. So if we're not too busy and we're willing to put in the hard work, let's talk about how do we create a team culture that can take lemons and make lemonade. So let's jump right in with 6 tips to create a jealousy-free worship ministry. Number 1, communicate expectations clearly up front. From my experience, the more clearly you can define and communicate expectations on the front end of things, the less you have to deal with it when it comes to people's feelings being hurt or people being disappointed or even just confusion in general. I think one of the easiest ways to imagine this being a problem is when you think of it in the arena of dating. I mean, the classic is if there's one person who's maybe just looking to go out and have a good time, and the other person is literally counting down the weeks before they are engaged, the relationship is doomed. In a similar way, if we can align our team's expectations with how we function as a team, the better it's going to go. Doing this on the front end is just going to clear up a whole lot of heartache down the road. Tip number 2, spot and engage early. Great leaders spot issues before they're really a problem. Any unwanted weed is much easier to pull in the baby stages than it is if it begins to grow further. The roots aren't as deep down. I think one of the biggest things with this is just learning to trust the Holy Spirit to guide you and give you discernment on how to lead your team and stay engaged with them so that you can learn how to see the warning signs along the way. And the biggest thing is that when you do finally see warning signs, you have the relational collateral to deal with it on the front end, to approach as a pastor who's willing to listen more than someone, a heavy that's coming in to put the hammer down. And the more you can come in as a listening leader, the better you're going to actually see what the real issue is. Number 3, identify a lead measure. So I'm a really big fan of measuring effectiveness based on lead measures rather than lag measures, which is outcome based. This concept comes from a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. In a nutshell, the idea is that you measure effectiveness and success based on what you can control, not on outcomes that you can't. For example, if someone wants to lose weight, rather than measuring my success based on the weight that I lost or something like that, which has lots of variables in that equation, instead measuring it based on behaviors that I did, like walking how many miles, or how many times a week did I go to the gym, or did I effectively follow the diet that I'd chosen. Each of those lead measures are hypothesized to have an outcome of losing weight. And that's the idea of lead measures versus lag outcomes. And this is huge important when it comes to building a culture on a team. In this instance, we're talking about how do we create a unified team where jealousy is minimized or eliminated. So maybe a lead measure would be to figure out something to celebrate that cultivates that unity and celebrates maybe those who typically don't, or those that are often overlooked, which elevates those gifts and helps you create a unified team. Lead measures are a great way to shape the culture of your team going forward. Number 4, provide growth opportunities. As a leader, but particularly as a worship leader, it's important that we are helping our team move toward the standard that we're holding. And this is another great example of how being a worship leader isn't just what we do on stage, but it has so much to do with what we're doing off stage as leaders. It's about resourcing and encouraging our team members to continue to grow towards who God has made them to be and the potential that they have to fulfill on our team and in our ministry. I talk about this all the time because it's an issue that I see often when it comes to singers in a worship ministry. A lot of times you have singers who want to be lead singers, but they're just not there yet. And it's so important for us. It's critical, really, for a growing, healthy team, for you to be able to have a systematic way of walking alongside of someone who has a desire and a potential to get there, but they're just not there yet. I see this so much that it's actually some resources and materials that we're working on right now to create some videos and ideas on how you can develop these things within your ministry. So watch out for those in the future. Number 5, and this one goes along with what I was talking about before, celebrate different strengths. Within worship ministry, there is a natural dopamine reinforcer built into our ministry, because there's so much of it that's focused around the stage. And you know this well. There are certain positions and giftings that lend themselves to those public accolades. But there's also some really important roles that don't lend itself there. And as leaders, it's so important that we're balancing those scales, recognizing that there's some positions that are getting elevated naturally. But as leaders, we want to continually push up the gifts that often get overlooked, but are vitally important to our ministry. You know, with football coming up, which I'm totally pumped about, by the way, it makes me think of all the publicity and the focus and fame that comes alongside star quarterbacks, or, you know, the stud wide receiver that makes the big play and actually gets the stat of the touchdown and the yardage. But very few people know the name of the guy who snapped the ball every play, or the guard that holds the pocket for each of those plays to actually happen. And the same is so true in our ministries. Some of the most gifted, valuable players and volunteers on your team will never see the literal spotlight, but I thank God for them. And it's critical for a healthy team that you thank them and value them also. And number 6 is evaluate and correct with a team. We put ourselves in a pretty precarious situation when we make subjective or even preferential decisions by ourselves. I learned a long time ago to never, ever do an audition all by myself. I recognized that I have blind spots. And even if I made exactly the right decisions and discernment along the way. It can be perceived as me having an unfair opinion. Right or wrong, you will always be in a better position if you make decisions, particularly subjective decisions, within a group context versus a unilateral decision by one person. So there you have it. I can almost guarantee you, if you put these things into place, you're going to see a healthier team and a whole lot less jealousy in your ministry. If you found this video helpful, you're going to love this video here that walks through our worship ministry coach growth circuit. And this is the process that we go through with our coaching clients that helps them get from where they are to where God's leading them. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.